1914 to 1919. January 3rd, 1920, the curse of the Bambino began. He was sold to the New York Yankees. The rest is history. 714 home runs later, he's a hero. And the Yankees were winners. The Red Sox not got back, won a World Series since the Babe was there. Little did Bob Kraft know that the Beantown Big Apple War would move on to another sport. When Bill Parcells coached the Patriots in the Super Bowl last year, and now he's coaching in the division with the New York Football Jets. It's Pete Carroll's turn to take over the coaching reins of a Super Bowl team. And Pete Carroll, oddly enough, once upon a time coach of the New York Jets, who the last 4 years did about as well as anybody else, better than anybody else, had 1 year and was fired by Leon Hess. Now, Pete Carroll's not going to bring that up with anything of a problem with the Jets, but it works both ways here. And oh, by the way, they play the third week of the season on a Sunday night. Parcells returns to Foxborough. So we have an interesting. Patriots and Jets have been rivals in the division. I think we up at about 5 notches now,
I think so, too. I also think, you know, Pete Carroll comes from now having gone to San Francisco, really had a chance to work with a championship quality ball club. I think moving away and coming back just gives you a whole different perspective. I think Pete Carroll right now has got them New England positioned to try and take them to the next level. But what really I think is going to happen up in New England is going to be Drew Bledsoe proving that it wasn't all Bill Parcells. I see Drew Bledsoe really dedicating himself to this season and going out and saying, I just want to prove to the world that we are a good football team. It wasn't all Bill Parcells' coaching that got us to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of good football players here. We're going to go out and prove it. We're going to help Coach Carroll prove it. I think there's a little bit of vindictiveness going to happen, too, up there, Chris.
Well, maybe both ways in this deal, Joe. Let's go quickly to Chris Mortensen in Miami, staying with our AFC East theme, and get a clue what the Patriots are going to do under Pete.
Well, you know, I talked to Bob Kraft and Pete Carroll both this week, and they seem, you know, fairly comfortable that they would get a defensive player in this particular area. You know, the defensive line, they lost Farrah Collins on a restricted free agent offer sheet to the Philadelphia Eagles. Cornerbacks, you know, hey, there's Chris Canty from Kansas State. There's Sam Madison from Louisville. They've got to strengthen that defense still, because Pete Carroll has a lot of different twists in mind for the Patriots defense. Chris?
All right, Mort, thank you. If it is defense at this point, Mel, let's look at their secondary. And I mean, they get an excellent football player in Lawyer Malloy, that's for sure, and Ty Law. I mean, they've got the, you know, the judicial system is working up at the Patriots with Ty Law and Lawyer Malloy. Now what do they do?
Well, I think Steve Israel's the key, Chris. You know, they signed him as a free agent. He played pretty well in San Francisco, but more as a nickel back. And the question is, can he be a starter? They probably want to fortify that position a little bit more, especially in a cornerback deep draft like we had this year.
Well, who's left in the corner area, Mel?
Well, he has some good ones still out there. I mean, when you look at the cornerback board and you see the players that are still there, I mean, you're going to see quality. There's not that much difference between, say, a Dexter McCleon and a Chad Scott. And Dexter McCleon, a former quarterback at Clemson, really improved. He has good feet. He's a little inexperienced, but he got better. Chris Canty ran 3.40s after the season was over. The third 40 finally got into the 4.48 range. Ty Howard's probably the best athlete of all the corners. Sam Madison's an experienced guy with also played some wide receiver, so you know he's an all-around type athlete. And Kevin Abrams did move up. I put him 10th. He's small, but he's fast. He was one of the fastest players actually in this draft.
I think that's where you wind up with both Canty and Abrams become the two quickest guys and probably could fit the need as New England tries to upgrade the speed. Remember, Pete Carroll likes to be aggressive on the defensive side of the ball, so he needs people who can cover one-on-one. Canty would be a good one there.
Yeah, Al Gamble looks for speed a little bit more than Bill does, and that might be the pick. New England with 6.5 minutes to go, followed by the champion Packers.
It will clearly define the important stories that dominate our time and examine developments that could improve your way of life with an impressive lineup of reporters and correspondents delivering impassioned reports on events that shape your world. From CNN and Time Magazine, a weekly primetime news magazine destined to make an impact. Sundays on CNN.
Recently, Circle K asked folks,
which brand should we add to our Thirst Buster fountain?
yes.
I would add Gatorade.
Yeah. What about Pepsi? Everybody likes Pepsi.
No,
Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew rules. Diet Pepsi. Dr. Pepper. Diet Pepsi. Too stupid. Conclusion? Just give everybody what they want.
Circle K Thirst Busters, now at a price that'll make everyone happy.
Mario Lemieux and the Penguins trail the series 1-0 as they look to square things up with the Legion of Doom. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, tonight at 7:30. The Stanley Cup playoffs on ESPN.
Lindros looks tough. Let's get his prints.
When we gave drivers of the Mercury Villager a smooth car-like ride, we didn't forget about the passengers' comfort. We gave them independent heating, air conditioning, and separate audio controls, along with 4 captain's chairs and an innovative sliding rear seat, all giving further proof that Mercury Villager's back seats don't take a back seat to anyone.
The Wildcats are #1. Now you can get your piece of Arizona history with Sports Illustrated's Wildcat National Championship package, free with your paid subscription. SI's limited edition, hardbound, individually numbered Wildcat commemorative and this officially licensed National Championship mini basketball are free when you order 54 issues of SI for only $1.48 an issue. Save over 55% off the cover price. Use your credit card. Celebrate Arizona's dream season with 2 exclusive collectibles from Sports Illustrated. Get into it.
Now, welcome back to ESPN's draft coverage. The AFC champion New England Patriots are on the clock, the 29th pick of round #1. It was about a year ago at this time that the Eagles' Ray Rhodes had us all saying who. He took Jermaine Mayberry, an offensive lineman out of Texas A&M Kingsville. Mayberry dressed for 2 games and got undressed when he did get into the lineup. Well, in the first round, John Harris, also the surprise pick by the Eagles at number 25.
With the 25th pick in the first round, the Philadelphia Eagles select John Harris, defensive end from the University of Virginia.
We had him in a couple weeks ago. He was 6'7½", 287 pounds, and we expect this young man to continue to grow a little bit. We feel extremely good about this guy. We had a chance to look at a lot of tape, and as far as the scouts and coaches are concerned, we feel real good about our pick.
So Ray Rhodes drafting defense and then getting a little bit defensive because there will be people who will question this guy, John Harris, the tallest player in the ACC, played more games in a Virginia Cavalier uniform than anybody ever. But Mel Kiper, our draft guru, rated him the 16th best defensive end in the draft. Mel, what do you think of this?
Well, Chris, I think when you look at the top 150 board, I had him like 146, and last time we had a reach of this magnitude, it was Tommy Maddox, who Joe remembers very well, when he was selected by Dan Reeves and the Denver Broncos. So I think when you look at this particular pick, I thought he would be maybe a bargain in the 4th or 5th round. Obviously, in the 1st round, I would take some exception with that selection.
You're saying he's not a bargain?
Well, I think when you look at John Harris, I think you're talking about a guy, Chris, that has some ability, certainly. I wouldn't say it would have been a bargain in the 4th or 5th round if I didn't see some upside potential. Certainly has the great size, certainly very durable. He got stronger late in his career. So for Ray Rhodes to roll the dice this early certainly was a major surprise. But at least you get a guy who has some ability, was on the field at Virginia, and got better as this year progressed.
I would hope you get a guy who has some ability if you drafted him in the 1st round, the 4th defensive end taken from the ACC. News breaking down in Tampa. Let's go to Andrea Kramer. Andrea?
Well, Chris, I'm in Tampa, but the news is breaking actually in Pittsburgh. Now, we just saw at the 24th pick, they took cornerback Chad Scott. Well, they're going to have another cornerback to add. They finally have come to an agreement, a 4-year deal with Donnell Wolford. He's going to be leaving the Bears. They've been really working on this all week. Now, Wolford was scheduled to visit with a couple of other teams next week, including the San Francisco 49ers, but he is going to sign a 4-year deal with the Steelers, leaving the Chicago Bears. That's Donnell Wolford. Let's go back to Chris Fowler in Bristol.
So they sign a veteran and they draft Chad Scott, the corner out of Maryland. That's it for our draft update. Approaching hour number 6. Back to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Chris and Andrea, thank you. Judging on what Mark Malone said, you got to think if they're going to put the money to Donnell Wolford, an excellent corner for Chicago, that this is the end of the marriage between Rod Woodson, one of the best corners when his knee was right ever. Rod Woodson and the Pittsburgh Steelers, it appears, will part company. San Francisco, as Andrea mentioned, we mentioned earlier, that could be one place that he could land. But here are the Patriots, their first pick of the post-Parcells era.
With the 29th pick in the draft, the New England Patriots select Chris Canty, defensive back, Kansas State. Next on the clock is the Green Bay Packers.
Well, that was certainly one of the type of players